He was one of Korea's richest men, but he pretended to be a street beggar and lived under a bridge in Seoul for 3 months, and nobody suspected a thing. Not the salarymen who stepped over him on their way to work, not the couples who walked past holding designer shopping bags, and definitely not the woman who would eventually become his wife. Jaemin Park was 33 years old and worth more money than most people could count. CEO of Park Industries, one of Korea's biggest tech companies, penthouse in Gangnam, a garage full of luxury cars. He had everything except the one thing that actually mattered: trust, real human connection. People who saw him, not his bank account. His wake-up call came 6 months ago when his fiancée dumped him. Not for another man exactly, but for another bank account. A Chinese investor with better political connections. She didn't even pretend it was about love. She literally said, "Your money's good, but his money opens more doors." That was it. Jaemin was done. So he did something insane. He called his assistant, told him to keep the company running, and walked out of his life. He traded his Tom Ford suits for worn-out clothes from a donation bin, grabbed some art supplies, and disappeared into the streets of Seoul. No security team, no credit cards, no phone. Just him, some sketch pads, and a simple question. Would anyone in this city treat him like a human being if they thought he had nothing? The answer for 3 solid months was no. People walked past like he was furniture. Some threw coins without making eye contact. A few took pictures for their Instagram stories about helping the homeless without actually speaking to him. One woman literally used him as a landmark when giving her friend directions. Yeah, turn left at the bridge, past the homeless guy with the drawings. Jaemin was about to give up on humanity entirely when she appeared. 2 in the morning, middle of winter, absolutely freezing. A woman in a convenience store uniform stopped right in front of where he was sitting under the Dongjak Bridge. She was black, mid-20s, with natural hair pulled back in a bun. And she was actually looking at his sketches, not glancing, looking. "Wow," she said in Korean with a slight accent. "These are really beautiful. Are you an artist?" Jaemin's hand froze mid-sketch. In 3 months, literally no one had asked him a personal question. "I used to draw," he said carefully, making his voice sound rougher than it was. She smiled, tired but warm, and held out a plastic bag. "I work at the convenience store up the street. We were going to throw this kimbap away, and I thought you might be hungry. There's hot coffee, too." He stared at the bag like it was made of gold. "You didn't have to do that, I know. But it's freezing, and no one should be out here with an empty stomach." She set the bag down next to him. "I'm Serena, by the way. I walk past here every night after my shift." "Jay," he said softly. Just his nickname. Not his full name that would trigger recognition, thank you. She waved it off like it was nothing and started walking away. Then she paused and looked back. "I finish work at 2 every night. I'll stop by tomorrow too, if that's okay." Jaemin nodded, not trusting his voice. She smiled again and disappeared into the darkness along the river path. And just like that, for the first time in 3 months, someone had seen him. The next night, 2 in the morning exactly, Serena showed up again. She brought him a triangle kimbap and another coffee, but this time she sat down. Not too close. Respectful of his space, but close enough to talk. "So what do you draw?" she asked, nodding at his sketch pad. "People, mostly faces." He flipped through some pages, showing her portraits of random strangers he'd sketched from memory. Her eyes went wide. "These are insane. You're seriously talented. Did you go to art school?" Something like that. Jaemin kept his answers vague, but she didn't push. Instead, she just talked, about her shift, about a rude customer who'd yelled at her for not speaking proper Korean, about how she was trying to save money to send back to her mom. "She lives in a village about 4 hours from here," Serena explained. "My dad was Korean, my mom's Nigerian. He died when I was 12 and she raised me by herself. Korea's not exactly easy for her, you know? Or for me either, honestly. People don't really know what to do with someone who looks like me." Jaemin understood that feeling more than she knew. Being invisible for different reasons, but invisible all the same. That became their routine. Every night, 2 in the morning, Serena would finish her shift and stop by the bridge. Sometimes she brought food, sometimes coffee, sometimes just conversation. She told him about her ex-boyfriend Minho, who she'd been dating for 3 years. How he was a manager at a car dealership and kept promising to propose, but something always felt off lately. Jaemin listened and asked questions. He told her edited versions of his life, that he used to work in business but burned out. All technically true, just missing the part about being a billionaire. These conversations at 2 a.m. under a bridge became the most real interactions Jamin had had in years. Maybe ever. Serena didn't want anything from him. Couldn't want anything from him because she thought he had nothing. She just saw a person and decided that person deserved kindness. For the first time since this whole experiment started, Jamin wasn't sure if he was testing humanity anymore, or if he was just falling for someone he could never actually have. Then one night in early December, everything changed. Serena showed up at 2 a.m. like always, but something was wrong. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hands were shaking as she sat down next to him and just started crying. "Hey, what happened?" Jamin asked, genuinely worried. "Are you okay?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I went to surprise Minho at work today. Brought him lunch because he's been so distant lately, and I thought maybe he was just stressed." Her voice cracked. "He was in his office with my cousin Hannah, kissing her." Jamin's jaw tightened. "Your cousin?" "Yeah, my cousin who's always treated me like I'm embarrassing, who makes comments about my hair, my job, everything." Serena wiped her eyes roughly, and Minho just looked at me and said I wasn't enough. That Hannah's family has money and connections, and I'm just a convenience store worker who'll never amount to anything. "He's an idiot," Jamin said quietly. She laughed bitterly. "Maybe, but he's not wrong. 3 years in Seoul, and what do I have? A tiny apartment, a job that barely pays rent, and a family back home that I can't even help properly." She put her head in her hands. "And the worst part? My mom already paid for the wedding venue. She's been saving for years. The deposit's non-refundable. She's going to be heartbroken when I tell her it's off." Jamin sat there in silence, watching this woman who'd shown him nothing but kindness for months break down over a man who clearly didn't deserve her. An idea formed in his head. A crazy, impulsive, absolutely insane idea. "Marry me," he said. Serena's head snapped up. "What?" "Marry me. Temporarily." Jamin turned to face her fully. "Your mom already paid for a wedding. Your family's expecting one, so let's give them one. We get married, keep it quiet for a few months, and then quietly divorce after things calm down. Your mom doesn't lose her money, you don't have to face the humiliation, and He paused. "I get to help the only person in this city who's treated me like I'm human." And she was staring at him like he'd lost his mind. "You're homeless. No offense, but how would that even work?" "I'm not completely without resources," he said carefully. "I can clean up okay. And honestly, what do you have to lose? The alternative is telling your mom the truth and breaking her heart." Serena looked at him for a long moment. Then she started laughing. That slightly hysterical laugh people do when things are so absurd they circle back to making sense. "This is crazy. Completely. You'd really do this? For me? You brought me food every night for months when you could barely afford to feed yourself," Jamin said. "Yeah, I'd really do this." She was quiet for a while, just staring out at the Han River. Finally, she turned back to him. Okay, let's do it. Let's get married." 3 days later, they were standing in Seoul City Hall in front of a registrar who looked deeply skeptical of the whole situation. Jamin had cleaned up as much as possible without revealing who he really was. Borrowed clothes from his assistant that looked decent but not expensive. Got a haircut, shaved. He looked presentable, just not billionaire CEO presentable. The registrar asked Serena 3 separate times if she was being coerced. "I'm not being forced," Serena said firmly. "I'm choosing to marry Jay. This is what I want." The registrar shrugged, clearly thinking they'd be back in 6 months for a divorce and stamp the papers. Just like that, Jamin Park, billionaire CEO, was legally married to Serena Ease, convenience store worker. And she still had absolutely no idea who he really was. They went back to Serena's tiny apartment in Itaewon after the registration. One room, barely bigger than Jamin's closet back in his penthouse, with a bathroom so small you had to stand sideways in the shower. "You can take the bed," Serena said quickly, obviously nervous. "I'll sleep on the floor." "Absolutely not, I'll take the floor." They argued about it for 10 minutes before Jamin finally grabbed a blanket and made himself a spot on the floor near the window. It was more comfortable than under the bridge, so he wasn't complaining. Living together was surprisingly easy. Serena worked nights, so Jamin had the apartment to himself during evening hours. He'd sneak out to meet with his assistant, check on company business, make sure everything was running smoothly. Then he'd get back before Serena came home at 2:30 and pretend he'd been there all along. During the day when they were both awake, they fell into a comfortable rhythm. Serena would make breakfast, usually something simple like rice and eggs. Jamin would clean up, fix things around the apartment that were broken, the heater that kept cutting out, the door that stuck, the leaky faucet. Serena kept asking where he learned to fix things, and he'd just shrug and say he picked stuff up over the years. They watched TV together, old Korean dramas that Serena loved. She'd explain cultural things he pretended not to understand. He'd sketch while she studied Korean textbooks, trying to improve her grammar for a certification test. "Why do you even need that test?" Jamin asked one afternoon. "Your Korean's already good." "Good's not enough," Serena said without looking up. "I need perfect if I want anyone to take me seriously. If I want a better job than convenience store clerk." He watched her hunched over that textbook, so determined to prove herself in a country that had never made space for her, and something twisted in his chest. This woman deserved everything, and here he was lying to her every single day about who he really was. He kept trying to tell her. Multiple times he'd start to say something. "Serena, there's something I need to explain." "Hold on. This customer's yelling at me." She'd take a work call, and the moment would pass. "So I should probably mention that I'm actually..." "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I have to call my mom back right now. She's panicking about wedding flowers." And she'd rush off. "The truth is, I'm not exactly..." "Jay, I need to tell you something first. I don't care about your past. Whatever happened before, whatever you're running from, it doesn't matter to me. You've been nothing but kind and honest with me. That's all I need to know." She'd smile at him so trustingly that his confession would die in his throat. How do you tell someone you've been lying to them when they just told you your honesty is what they value most? A month passed, then 6 weeks, and somewhere in all those late-night conversations and shared meals and quiet mornings, something shifted. Serena would laugh at his jokes and he'd feel it in his chest. She'd fall asleep on the couch during a drama, and he'd carefully cover her with a blanket and just watch her for a minute. She started calling him her husband to coworkers, not as a joke, but like she meant it. And he'd feel this surge of something he couldn't name. This wasn't fake anymore, not for him at least. Then one evening in mid-December, Serena's phone rang. Her mom. "Hey, Yama," Serena answered, her Korean getting more formal like it always did with her mother. She listened for a moment, then her face went pale. "Wait, what? This Christmas? But that's in 2 weeks." Jamin looked up from his sketch pad, worried. Serena covered the phone. "My mom invited us home for Christmas. She wants to meet you. She's already told the whole family about the wedding." "Okay," Jamin said slowly. "So we go." "You don't understand." "My family..." Serena looked genuinely stressed. "My aunt's going to be there. My aunt who measures everyone's worth by their bank account. My cousin Hana, who already thinks I'm a failure. And now Minho's probably going to be there too, because of course he is. Because he's dating Hana now officially. And let's show them you're doing just fine," Jamin said calmly. "Jay, no offense, but you..." She stopped, looking uncomfortable. "I look homeless?" he finished for her. "I didn't mean..." "It's fine, it's true." He set down his sketch pad. "Serena, I'll clean up. I'll borrow some decent clothes. I'll be respectful to your family, but I need you to trust me on something. Can you do that?" She studied his face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, I trust you." He really needed to tell her the truth before they got to that village. He really did. He didn't. 2 weeks later, they were on a train heading south. Jamin had told his assistant exactly where he'd be, just in case. He'd cleaned up even more, wearing borrowed clothes that looked presentable but not expensive. He'd practiced looking humble. This was going to be fine. Serena was a bundle of nerves the entire train ride. "My Aunt Patricia is going to judge everything," she said for the 10th time. "And Hana's going to bring Minho just to rub it in my face. And my mom's going to be so excited to meet you. But then she'll see that you're..." She stopped again. "Poor," Jamin supplied. "I was going to say different from what she expected," Serena said quietly. "She's old-fashioned. She wanted me to marry someone established. Someone who could take care of me. Instead, I'm bringing..." She trailed off, looking miserable. "A homeless street artist you married out of pity?" Jamin kept his voice light, but something stung in his chest. "No, God no, I didn't marry you out of pity, Jay. I married you because you're kind, and you listen, and you see me as a person. Because in 3 months you've treated me better than Minho did in 3 years. She looked out the window. "I wish I could give my mom what she wants. A son-in-law she could be proud of." "She will be," Jamin said quietly. "Trust me." When they arrived at the village, it was already dark. Christmas lights were strung up everywhere. making the small houses glow warm against the snow. Serena's mom lived in a modest home at the edge of town, traditional Korean style with a small garden in front. The door flew open before they even knocked. Serena! Her mother was a small Nigerian woman with graying hair and the same warm smile as her daughter. She pulled Serena into a crushing hug, then turned to Jaemin with excited eyes. "And you must be Jay. Come in, it's freezing out there." The house was warm and smelled like jollof rice and kimchi jjigae, some fusion of Serena's two cultures. Her mother fussed over both of them, bringing them food and asking a million questions. She was kind, though, genuinely kind, and Jaemin could see exactly where Serena got her heart. "I'm so happy she found you," Serena's mom said to Jaemin in accented Korean. She always picked men who didn't appreciate her. "But I can see it in your eyes. You see her?" Jaemin swallowed hard. "Yes, ma'am, I do." That night, they slept in Serena's childhood room, and for the first time, Jaemin insisted on sharing the small bed with her, because her mom would find it weird if he took the floor. "I'll stay on my side," he promised. "I know you will," Serena said, and there was something in her voice he couldn't quite read. "Jay?" Serena whispered. "Yeah? Thank you for doing this, for coming here, for helping me. You don't need to thank me. I do, though, because She paused. "Never mind, good night." "Good night, Serena." The next evening was Christmas Eve, and the family dinner was at a fancy restaurant in the nearest big town, about 30 minutes away. Serena was stress-eating snacks all afternoon. "It's going to be fine," Jaemin kept saying. "You don't know my family," she muttered. They arrived at the restaurant at 7. It was one of those expensive places with mood lighting and a dress code. Jaemin was wearing the nicest borrowed clothes he had, but they were still obviously cheap. Serena was in a simple dress, pretty, but nothing fancy. Her Aunt Patricia was already there, dripping in designer everything. Next to her was Hannah, Serena's cousin, in a dress that probably cost more than Serena's monthly rent. And sitting across from them, looking smug, was Minho. "Serena!" Aunt Patricia's voice carried across the entire restaurant. "You actually came, and this must be your husband." The way she said husband made it sound like an insult. "Hello, Aunt Patricia," Serena said stiffly. "This is Jay." "Charming," Hannah said in a voice that meant the opposite. "Minho, doesn't he look familiar? Like that homeless man who used to sit outside Serena's work?" Minho squinted at Jaemin and laughed. "Oh my God, it is." "Serena, did you seriously marry the street beggar?" The table went quiet. Serena's face flushed with humiliation. "He's not," she started. "Oh, honey, there's no shame in charity work," Aunt Patricia said with fake sympathy. "Though actually marrying them is a bit extreme, don't you think? What does he even do for work?" "I'm between jobs at the moment," Jaemin said calmly. Hannah nearly spit out her wine. "Between jobs? That's code for unemployed." "Minho, you dodged a bullet with this family." "I really did," Minho agreed. "No offense, Serena, but you aimed way too low. I mean, look at you, still in the same cheap clothes, same dead-end job. And now, married to someone who literally lives on the street." Serena's mother stood up. "That's enough. You don't talk to my daughter like that." "Oh, please, it's not talk, it's facts," Aunt Patricia said. Serena's always been the family disappointment. Goes to Korea, works a nothing job, and marries a beggar. Meanwhile, Hannah's engaged to a manager at one of the biggest companies in Seoul. "Assistant manager," Minho corrected, puffing up, "at Park Industries." Jaemin's eyebrow twitched slightly, but he said nothing. "Park Industries," Aunt Patricia crowed. "One of the most successful tech companies in Korea. That's the kind of man you should have married, Serena. Someone with ambition, with prospects. Not..." She waved vaguely at Jaemin. Serena was shaking. From anger or shame, Jaemin couldn't tell. "I think," he started to say. "You think?" Hannah laughed. "Does it hurt, thinking? Because, honey, it's obvious you don't do it much." That's when the headlights appeared outside the restaurant windows. Bright, impossibly bright. Multiple sets of them. A fleet of black luxury cars pulled up outside, expensive enough that everyone in the restaurant turned to look. The doors opened and men in black suits stepped out, the kind of security detail that only extremely important people have. The restaurant door opened and a man in an expensive suit walked in, bowing deeply. "Chairman Park," he said in a loud, clear voice. "We've been searching everywhere for you. The board meeting has been moved up. They need you immediately." The entire restaurant went silent. Minho's face had gone white. Aunt Patricia's mouth was hanging open. Hannah had literally frozen with her wine glass halfway to her lips. Jaemin stood up slowly, his entire demeanor changing. Gone was the quiet, humble man who'd been absorbing insults for the past 20 minutes. His posture straightened, his expression hardened into something commanding. "Thank you, Danny," he said in perfect, unaccented Korean. His voice had dropped its rough edges, becoming the voice of someone used to boardrooms and billion-dollar deals. "I'll be there shortly." "Sir, the cars are ready whenever you are," Danny said, still bowing. Minho made a choking sound. "Chairman Park? You can't be—" Jaemin turned to him with an expression of mild interest. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" I work for you. I'm Minho Cha, assistant manager at the Seoul branch. Oh, right. The assistant manager." Jaemin's tone was ice cold. "The one who's been dating my wife's cousin after cheating on my wife." "Your wife!" The word came out as a squeak. Jaemin ignored him and turned to Serena, his expression softening immediately. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small black velvet box. When he opened it, a diamond ring caught the restaurant's light. The kind of ring that probably cost more than most people's cars. He got down on one knee right there in the middle of the restaurant. "Serena," he said gently, 3 months ago you saw a man sitting under a bridge and decided he deserved kindness. Food, conversation, humanity. You didn't know I was testing the world, seeing if anyone could see past money and status to just see me. You saw me when I had nothing. You married me when you thought I was nobody. You've treated me with more respect and genuine care than anyone has in my entire life." The tears were streaming down Serena's face. "So I'm asking you now, in front of everyone, with no more secrets between us. Will you stay married to me? Not out of obligation, not to save face, but because I've fallen completely in love with you, and I want to spend every day proving I deserve the kindness you showed a stranger under a bridge." Serena was ugly crying now, the kind where you can't breathe properly and your whole face scrunches up. "You're an idiot," she sobbed. "Is that a yes?" "Yes, you complete idiot, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger and stood up, pulling her into a kiss right there in the middle of the restaurant while everyone stared in shock. When they broke apart, Jaemin kept his arm around Serena and turned to address the table. "Minho," he said pleasantly, "you're fired. Security will escort you from the building on Monday." Minho made a sound like a dying animal. "Hana and Patricia, thank you for the dinner conversation. It was enlightening." His voice dripped with cold politeness. "Serena's mother, I apologize for the deception. I wanted to know who my wife's family was before revealing myself. I can see now that Serena's kindness came from you, not from everyone at this table." Serena's mother was still sitting there in shock, but she was starting to smile. "Now if you'll excuse us," Jaemin said, guiding Serena toward the door. "We have a board meeting to get to. Oh, and the bill for dinner is on me. Merry Christmas." They walked out of that restaurant hand in hand while Aunt Patricia's jaw was still on the floor. Outside in the snow, with the security detail waiting by the cars, Serena finally found her voice. "You're really him, Park Jaemin? The Park Jaemin?" "I tried to tell you," he said softly. "So many times. That's why you could fix everything in my apartment. Why you spoke perfect English. Why you always seemed so, not homeless. Yes," she hit his arm hard. "You let me bring you convenience store kimbap for 3 months. Your kimbap was the best thing I'd eaten in years," he said honestly. "Because it came with you." She hit him again, but she was laughing through the tears. "I can't believe this. I married a billionaire." "No," Jaemin said, turning to face her fully. "You married a man under a bridge who had nothing. That's who I fell in love with you as. The money, the company, all of that, that's just stuff. What matters is that you saw me, really saw me. When everyone else looked through me or over me, you saw me." Serena was crying again. "I did see you. I saw someone kind who drew beautiful art and listened when I talked, and made me laugh when I was sad. That's who I fell in love with, even though I lied." "You didn't lie about who you are," she said firmly. "You lied about what you have. Those are different things. The man I know, the man I married, he's real, right?" "The realest I've ever been," Jaemin promised. She kissed him again, gentler this time, and when she pulled back, she was smiling. "So how rich are we talking? Like, can we afford to eat at restaurants without checking the prices?" He laughed, actually laughed, something he hadn't done in years before meeting her. "Serena, we could buy the restaurant." "Oh my God." She looked at the diamond ring on her finger, really looked at it for the first time. "This probably costs more than my entire apartment. About 3 times more, actually." She made a strangled sound. Then she started laughing, that slightly hysterical laugh from months ago. My mom is going to pass out when she finds out. Should we tell her now? No, Serena said decidedly. Let her enjoy her revenge fantasies about Aunt Patricia's face for one more night. We'll tell her tomorrow. They stood there in the snow for another moment, just looking at each other. For the record, Serena said quietly, I would have stayed married to you even if you really were homeless. I fell for you in $3 kimbap and Han River conversations. This? She gestured at the luxury cars and security detail. This is just a really insane bonus. Jae-min pulled her close, breathing in the smell of her hair. I know, that's exactly why I love you. They went back to Serena's mother's house that night, leaving the cars and security detail behind. In the morning, Jae-min sat down with Serena's mother and properly introduced himself. He explained everything. The test, the disguise, falling for her daughter, all of it. Serena's mother listened quietly, then said, You could have told her the truth sooner. I know, I was afraid. Of what? That she'd look at me differently. That I'd lose the only real thing I'd found in years. Serena's mother smiled. My daughter doesn't change how she sees people based on their bank accounts. I raised her better than that. But I'm glad you know that now. I do, Jae-min said. And I promise to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve her. Good, she said. Then she stood up and hugged him. Welcome to the family, for real this time. On Christmas Day, the village was blanketed in fresh snow. Jae-min and Serena walked through it hand in hand, past neighbors who waved and smiled, past the church where Serena grew up, past the small playground where she'd learned Korean as a kid. What happens now? Serena asked. Now we go back to Seoul, Jae-min said. I return to the company officially. We move out of your apartment into somewhere bigger if you want. Though honestly, I like that apartment. It felt like home. Because it was cramped and the heater barely worked. Because you were there. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. You're so cheesy. You like it? Unfortunately, yes. They walked a bit further, the snow crunching under their feet. Jay? Serena said quietly. Yeah? Thank you for choosing me to test. For sitting under that bridge where I could find you. For being patient while I figured out my feelings. For making me feel seen when I've spent my whole life being invisible. He stopped walking and turned to her. Serena, you were never invisible. You're the brightest thing in any room. Everyone else was just too blind to see it. She kissed him there in the snow. On Christmas Day, in the village where she grew up, with neighbors watching and smiling behind curtains. And somewhere in Seoul, Minho was packing up his office while security watched. Hana was fielding calls from relatives who'd heard about the dinner. Aunt Patricia was trying to explain to her husband how she'd accidentally humiliated a billionaire. But under a bridge on the Han River, Jae-min's old sketches were still there, protected by plastic sheeting, including one portrait he'd drawn and never shown Serena, a portrait of a woman with kind eyes and a warm smile, bringing food to a stranger in the middle of the night. The sketch was dated 3 months earlier, from the very first night they'd met. And written at the bottom in small letters was a note he'd made to himself that night. Today I met someone who sees people. I think I might love her. He'd been right. And now, 3 months later, he got to love her for real. No disguises, no tests, no more sleeping under bridges. Just him and her, and a future full of 2 a.m. conversations and convenience store kimbap, and a kind of happiness money could never buy. The end.